Room service.
Baby, I can explain.
Room service. Sir, Mum, I need to clean the room. Mercy stood outside room 102 at Goodwill Hotel, holding a mop and a small cleaning bucket, her heart beating fast but her face calm and steady. The door opened. John, her husband, stood there. The same husband who had told her he was going on a business trip the previous day. His shirt was half unbuttoned. His hair was messy. He looked like a man who had been in a hurry. Before Mercy could say anything, another woman stepped beside him. She had long loose hair that looked slightly tangled. She wore a green silk dress that clung to her body. Her lipstick was smudged. Her smile was careless and relaxed. For a moment, time stopped. John's eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He stared at Mercy like he had seen a ghost. Mercy blinked once. Then she smiled. "Good afternoon," she said calmly. "I'm here to clean." John swallowed hard. "Mercy," he started. Mercy tilted her head. "Sorry, sir," she said politely. "Do I know you?" The woman beside him frowned. "John, are you okay?" she asked. "You look strange." John cleared his throat. "I'm fine," he said quickly. "I'm fine." The woman laughed softly. "It's just the cleaner," she said. "Let her do her job." John tried again. "This is my wife." "Sir," Mercy cut in smoothly, stepping forward. "I just need a few minutes. I won't disturb you." She walked into the room without waiting. John stood frozen at the door. The woman shrugged and followed her inside. Mercy placed her bucket down and began wiping the table. She moved slowly, carefully, like this was just another normal day at work. "Nice room," Mercy said lightly. "Very spacious." The woman smiled proudly. "I know. This hotel is beautiful." Mercy began cleaning the mirror. The woman turned to John. "I'm so happy we finally came here," she said. "You really needed this break." John said nothing. The woman continued. "Honestly, I'm glad you're away from home for once. Your wife sounds so boring, always tired, always busy with house things." Mercy's hand paused for one brief second. Then she continued wiping. John shifted uncomfortably. The woman laughed softly. "You said she never understands you anymore, and that she doesn't even try to look nice." Mercy walked toward the window and cleaned the glass. John caught her reflection. Their eyes met. Mercy smiled brightly. John looked away fast. The woman leaned closer to him. "So, tell me," she said quietly, "when are you finally leaving her?" John's chest tightened. He stood suddenly. "I need some air," he said. Mercy turned toward him. "Sir, would you like me to start with the bathroom?" she asked calmly. John shook his head quickly. No, it's fine." Mercy nodded. "If you need anything," she said, "just let me know." She continued cleaning. John stood there trapped between shock and fear, and the woman beside him had no idea that the cleaner in front of her was his wife. To understand how we reached that hotel room, let me take you back to the previous night. The house was quiet. Their son was already asleep. The lights were off. John was fast asleep beside Mercy. Then his phone buzzed. Once. Mercy opened her eyes. Late-night messages were not normal. She stared at the glowing screen. Another buzz. She told herself to ignore it. She told herself it was none of her business. But something inside her pushed her to look. Slowly she reached for the phone. Her heart started beating faster. A name appeared. Jane. Mercy frowned. She had never heard that name before. She opened the message. "Are we still on for tomorrow?" Goodwill Hotel. "I can't wait." Mercy's chest tightened. Her mind froze. Tomorrow. Her eyes moved back to John. He was still sleeping, breathing softly. The same man who had told her earlier that week he would be away for 3 days on a business trip. So this was the business trip. Her fingers scrolled. More messages appeared. Laughing emojis, love words, plans. Her throat burned, but she stayed silent. She placed the phone back where she found it. She turned toward the wall. Her eyes stayed open. And then, the memories started coming. She remembered how John had been distant lately, how he came home late almost every day, how he snapped at her over small things, how he stopped looking at her the way he used to, how sometimes he came home smelling of perfume that was not hers. She had ignored it all. She had told herself he was stressed. She had told herself marriage had seasons. But now, everything made sense. Her heart hurt, deeply, but her mind stayed clear. The next morning, Mercy woke up early. She cooked breakfast. She packed his bag. She ironed his clothes. She smiled like nothing was wrong. John entered the kitchen. "Good morning, my love," he said. "Good morning, sweetheart," she replied softly. "My trip is today," he said. "I know," Mercy said calmly. "Call me when you arrive." "I will," he said, kissing her forehead. He picked his bag and walked out. Mercy stood at the door long after he left. Her smile slowly faded. She whispered to herself, "So this is the trip." She walked back inside, sat on the couch, and stared at the wall. Her heart was broken, but her mind was already working. Because Mercy had made a decision that morning, John would not lie to her again. And very soon, she would walk straight into the truth. And her cheating husband had no idea that when he and his lover walked into that hotel, they would be walking straight into her world. The next day, Mercy woke before the sun. She dressed simply, in a plain blouse and trousers, nothing that would draw attention. When she arrived at Goodwill Hotel, she walked through the staff entrance and headed straight to the locker room. Staff members paused and bowed slightly as she walked past. Her presence commanded respect without a word. She changed into a cleaner's uniform. The black and white dress hugged her tightly. The apron tied around her waist smelled faintly of detergent. Her face was bare, no makeup, no trace of the woman John thought he knew. She moved confidently through the polished hallways, every corner and hallway familiar to her because she had walked them 100 times before. Her husband had been too busy thinking she had no ambitions, no goals, to ever notice the world she had quietly built around herself. This was more than a disguise. The woman he had despised, the boring housewife he had ignored for years, was no ordinary woman. Her heart raced. Her palms felt clammy as she pushed the cleaning cart down the corridor. Every step brought her closer to room 102. The door stood ahead, plain and ordinary, but behind it were the man who had lied to her and the woman who had stolen him. Mercy paused for a moment. She inhaled slowly, steadying herself. "Just a cleaner," she whispered under her breath. "Just a cleaner. But soon they will see who I really am." She lifted her hand and knocked lightly on the door. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Room 102, her husband's room. And with a final breath, she whispered quietly, "They have no idea who is about to walk in." And that's how Mercy found herself cleaning the room of her husband and his lover. Every word Jane spoke cut deep. Yet Mercy moved with calm precision. She dusted the table, wiped the glass, and adjusted the cushions while her mind raced. She thought of the nights she had stayed awake caring for their child, the mornings she had prepared breakfast for John, the countless times she had hidden her own fatigue to make sure their home ran smoothly. And yet, here he was, repaid with betrayal. A small, ironic smile crept onto her face. If only he knew who she really was. If only he knew how she had always been quietly in control, how the world around him had been shaped by her careful hands while he thought her life had no purpose. She remembered the sneers of his lover, the way she called her boring, useless, tired. Mercy's lips curved into a calm, almost playful smirk. She let them talk, let the words fill the room, soaking into her plan. Every insult, every brag, only made her resolve stronger. When she finally finished cleaning, she stepped back and looked at them once more, mop in hand, her posture perfect, calm and confident. "Anything else you need before I go?" she asked lightly, as if she were just another efficient staff member. John and Jane shook their heads mutely. Mercy gathered her bucket and cart, wheeling them toward the door. The door closed behind her. She let out a deep, slow breath. Before she could move further, she heard footsteps. It was John. He was following her desperately, realizing too late that he had underestimated her. "Mercy, wait, please, this isn't what it looks like," he stammered, his voice trembling, panic in his eyes. Mercy stopped at the corridor, turned slowly, and gave him a small, amused smile. "I know exactly what it looks like," she said coolly. "Go back to her. I have work to do." John froze, his mind spinning. If only he knew, she thought, just how much control she had had all along. If only he realized that every step he had taken thinking he was clever had been carefully watched, measured, and anticipated. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment he had thought her weak. He had only revealed his own foolishness. John's voice broke. "Mercy, please, I didn't mean—" Mercy raised a finger, cutting him off effortlessly. She let her gaze sweep over him, amused, confident, untouchable. That's when a hotel staff member appeared, bowing slightly. Her eyes widened in recognition. "Madam Mercy, why are you wearing a cleaner's uniform?" she whispered, astonishment clear in her voice. John spun toward her, panic etched deep on his face. "What do you mean?" "Madam," he gasped, voice trembling, disbelief clear in every word. The staff member nodded solemnly. "This is the owner of the hotel, sir. Madam Mercy herself." With that, she quickly stepped aside and walked away, leaving John frozen in shock. He froze completely. No words came out. His mind raced. His knees went weak. His hands shook slightly at his sides. His eyes darted between Mercy and the empty hallway. He could not process what he was seeing. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. How is this possible?" he stammered. His chest heaved. His breathing was uneven. He took a small step back as if distance could protect him from the truth. Every muscle in his body tensed. A cold sweat ran down his temple. He looked at Mercy. This quiet, controlled woman he thought he knew suddenly seemed larger, untouchable, utterly unstoppable. He had been kneeling, begging, pleading, and now the truth hit him like a hammer. A few seconds later, Jane came out of the room. She had heard the noise in the hallway and wanted to see what was happening. Her eyes widened as she saw John on his knees, shaking, begging a woman in a simple cleaner's uniform. What is happening? Why are you begging a cleaner?" she asked, her voice trembling. John straightened slightly, swallowing hard, finally finding courage. She's my wife," he said, voice quivering but firmer now. "The one I married." Mercy laughed, a cold, sharp sound that made Jane step back. "Wife? Me? No, my name is Madam Mercy," she said, her voice calm, measured, and dripping with authority. "Soon to be ex-wife," she added, letting the words sink in. Jane gasped. But you said your wife is just a nobody. A housewife. that she stays at home and does nothing. John stammered, unable to speak. How are you the owner? He asked Mercy, his voice shaking. Mercy's eyes sparkled with quiet triumph. Power does not need to shout, she said softly. And I am not only the owner of Goodwill Hotel, but 5 other hotels across the country. Every time you thought I was weak, I was in control. John fell to his knees again, begging desperately. I didn't know. I don't love Jane. She seduced me. Mercy's laugh rang out, clear and cold. You will expect divorce papers, Mercy said firmly, stepping closer, her voice steady and unwavering. I am taking full custody of our son. John, do not return home. You have already lost. Jane shook her head and backed away, whispering, I can't. I'm not ready for this drama, before walking away. Mercy also turned and walked down the corridor, her steps calm, strong, measured. Every inch of her posture radiated authority. Her heart, though bruised, was steel. She had never raised her voice, never lost her composure, and yet she had completely shattered their world. And as she disappeared into the bright hotel hallway, she glanced over her shoulder with a small, victorious smile. Sometimes, she thought, the strongest women are the ones no one sees coming. The moral of this story is, loyalty and betrayal always have consequences. Underestimating someone who works quietly behind the scenes can cost you everything. Strength is quiet, sharp, and unstoppable. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this one. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you all over the world.